right, everybody, welcome to BO Boys for Friday, March 31st. F it, it's a raw feed. We're doing it live. I'm Clayton.
Yeah, I'm Pat. Clayton, how are you feeling? How is your DCEU flu treating you right now? Are you in remission or is DCEU flu taking stronger hold of you?
Well, Shazam was a giant bomb,
Yes.
so it's taking longer to recover from that than I expected.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's worse in the morning, but, I'm able to function. I'm able to
Right.
function.
Right.
What would truly help is if Dungeons& and Dragons
Yes.
can overperform. Now, I don't think it needs to do 50 or 60. I'm not saying that, huh? I'm just saying if it could do something akin to, I don't know, what's a good comp for D&D? Uncharted
Okay.
territory.
Okay. So if
If
if you
D&D
get a
could get
dose
into
of like $40 million D&D opening, that could really
yeah.
help. Mhm.
And listen,
Mhm.
even if it opens to 30, I
Right.
think maybe it'll slowly help because
Right.
this movie's getting good reviews. They're
Mhm.
promoting the hell out of it.
Yes. Yes. Well, let's get into it. This weekend, the big opener is the newest adaptation of the is it a fantasy role-playing game? Did you ever play Dungeons and Dragons when you were
Yes.
younger?
Not
Okay,
when
so
I was
you're
younger.
okay.
I played it in my 30s.
Okay, so when you were younger than you are now, but not when you were young.
No. Not when you
Mhm.
would call yourself young.
Right, right, right. And so is it fun? Is it what is it? Because I'm not listen, I'm a I go out there, I do athletic things. I'm that type of person. I'm not playing
That's a
Dungeons and
lie.
Dragons.
That's a lie.
But what is the appeal of Dungeons and Dragons? It's the appeal of saying I am a wizard, I have a wand, that type of thing.
Number 1, I'm the jock of the 2 of us. That is, because I played soccer in high school, you know this.
Right,
Um,
right.
but I would say I played it with a bunch of friends who were really super creative, and we made it funny, and
Okay.
that's what was fun about it. It was basically just like God, I don't wanna say the word.
Say it. Say that
No, I
word.
can't say that word. I can't say it because then you're gonna say it's not well, it does not seem fun. It's a little bit like improv.
Oh boy.
I know, but
Okay.
okay, but, there's no going back from that, but it is fun depending on who you play with and how much they go by the actual rules. We were not
Okay.
super serious about it,
Got
so
it.
it
Got
was
it.
fun.
Got it. So it seems like that may be the case with these movies because this is the second Dungeons and Dragons big screen adaptation. There was a 2000 version starring Marlon Wayans that was a tremendous bomb at the
Yes,
box office. It opened in December of 2000 and opened to 7.2 million on its way to a total of $15 million for a
terrible.
big post is this post Lord of the Rings or this is still pre Lord of the
Pre
Rings at that point?
Pre-Lord.
Right. So it was Dungeons and Dragons was trying to beat Lord of the Rings to the punch of being the big fantasy, epic. And that's a tremendous bomb. But the word on the street with this new one is that it's looser than that 2001, which I remember as Jeremy Irons movie seemed like it was very self-serious and trying to be big and epic, whereas this Chris Pine movie is getting good reviews for being light on its feet, for being funny, for being a little bit self-mocking. So maybe that is the key to Dungeons and Dragons in general is to not take it so seriously, whether you're
Well,
playing or whether you're making a movie.
yeah, so here, let's just talk quickly about where D&D is in culture right now,
Okay,
okay?
great. You would
Because
know because you're a big D&D guy.
all right, I'm not a big D&D guy, but in the '80s, it was looked at as something that was satanic and would steal your children, right? I mean, that was D&D. If not that, it was so nerdy
Mhm.
that only the nerdiest of nerds would do it.
Okay.
But with the advent of, like you said, Lord of the Rings, the House of the Dragon, and your Game of Thrones, those sort of things have put dragons in medieval sort of settings, in fantasy, back in not the center of culture, but definitely more centralized.
Mhm.
And the thing with D&D is there's a lot of D&D podcasts where
Mm.
comedians
Mhm.
will play Dungeons& and Dragons, and there's some very popular ones. So I think a lot of people know D&D for, people goofing around. Also, famous people have claimed to be fans. Vin Diesel is one.
Okay.
He's a big D&D guy. Jason Momoa is a big D&D guy. So there are celebrities that talk about it. So it is
Okay.
not niche anymore.
Okay. Okay.
But
But Vin Diesel is not doing a voice in this movie. Am I correct? He's not playing the
no, but what I'm
voice of the
saying is that
wand.
just having somebody who is that level of famous mention a property,
Mhm.
and I think, the last Witch Hunter, I think, was based on his D&D, uh, his, like, D&D story or whatever that he played with his buddies. So
Okay.
so there is a level of, like, people know what D&D is and
Mhm.
more aware now, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
The problem could be, as you were stating before, is that how many people actually wanna see this on screen,
That's the big
and
jump.
the hardcores, as much as comedy is such a huge element of Dungeons& and Dragons, will the hardcores revolt at another, "Oh, ha, tee hee hee, you're making fun of the thing I like," sort of Marvelization of a property? That's the
Uh-huh.
question.
Well, I mean, I have not seen this film. You have not seen this film. We did greatly enjoy the latest trailer for this film. That was an
Mhm.
extended joke. It was basically an extended, look at one scene, one gag from the movie. And it does feel like the humor is less making fun of the property, less sort of winky Marvel stuff, and a little bit more just old-fashioned goofiness, like
Yeah.
a Monty Python style of humor rather than a smirky. Even though this does have a Chris, it has one of the Chris's, it doesn't have one of the Marvel Chris's.
Yeah, but
And
he's a
so it does.
smirky Chris. He's definitely a smirky Chris.
He's a smirky Chris, but it feels like this humor is not so self-satisfied as the Marvel humor usually is. Though again, we haven't seen this film. So right now, I think you touched on something. Dragons have definitely been brought forward in the culture in a way they were not in 2000, because
Yes.
2000 Lord of the Rings hadn't come out, so you didn't have the dragon from that movie. You didn't have the Game of Thrones hadn't aired for another 10 years or so before Game of Thrones would be on. Dragons are huge right now. So to me, even more than Chris Pine as the star, this movie is going to be a test of how big are dragons and
Mhm.
because dragons traditionally have not been a huge draw at the box office. You
Yeah.
know,
What was the Dragonheart?
Dragonheart, is that the Sean Connery one? Right?
Ye
I
I
think
bel
that's I think that's the Sean Connery movie is
Yes, where he
Dragonheart.
voices the dragon.
And I'm gonna get I don't think that that was a big hit at the box office. I'm looking that up now, but my memory of that was that was a summer movie that kind of came and went.
Opened to 15,000,000 in
Right.
May of 1996,
So May
and
'96, that's an attempt at a big summer movie.
and only legged out to 51.3.
Yeah. Exactly. So, and then you had the Dungeon Dragons come out 4 years later, and that tanked. So traditionally, big dragon movies, there was that Aragon movie based on the big hit
Oh,
book, and it was
huge
supposed to
bomb.
be huge bomb, and that was supposed to be one where we're gonna make 11 of these, and they made 1.
And do you
So
remember Reign of Fire with
right.
Christian Bale and Matthew McConaughey? Also a movie that underperformed. in
Right.
2002, opened to
Right.
15. That seems to be 15 seems to be the level that Dragons were at, a 15,000,000 opening.
So you mentioned Uncharted earlier, and Uncharted opened what in February of 2022, and I think it opened to about 43 million,
I think it
44,
was 44, right?
44 domestic. And I get that
Oh,
those have a
44.
lot of similarities, but I think the test here is, does the dragon aspect pull it under Uncharted? You know, would people rather have a swashbuckling adventure that is just dragon free as opposed to featuring a dragon, which may be a negative? I think the dragon aspect still has some nerdy connotations to the average moviegoer. That to
Wow.
me is the big problem here.
So you think dragons can drag it down?
I mean, if you look at the history of the box office, that's been the case. And Lord of the Rings has a dragon, but it's not like the dragon is the draw. You know, it's not
Well,
Lord of the Dragons.
you know what? The Hobbit had a whole movie named after one of the dragons, but
Smaug.
yeah, whatever his name was.
But it wasn't called Smaug the Dragon. I think maybe some people showed up not even knowing what Smaug was going to be.
Yeah,
They
but
thought
those
he
were
might be just like a
disappointing
guy.
compared to the other, films.
I mean,
But,
all those Hobbit movies were huge, but I feel like the dragon wasn't the star or in the title the way it is in Dungeons and Dragons.
Pat, I'm gonna just name one franchise that may change your mind here. How to
Okay.
Train Your Dragon.
Wow. That's a great
Animated
one. Mhm.
animated,
Mhm.
but the first movie opened to 43, legged out to 217, and had a worldwide of $500 million,
Mhm.
right? Number 2 made 49 opening weekend, 177 domestic, and then 614 worldwide, right?
Okay.
So, these movies and then again 55 for the third one, 160 domestic, and then 500 million for worldwide. So, people like training dragons, and they like
Right.
animated dragons, but these are CGI dragons, which are a different beast for sure.
Right, right. Well, you know, those are kids' movies. Kids may like dragons more than adults like dragons.
Mhm.
You know, adults may feel like I have to outgrow my love of dragons to be a man, to be a woman, to be a person.
Person.
You know, whereas a kid, dragons are cool. I love dragons. Leave me alone. Don't say I'm a nerd just because I like dragons.
Yes.
But we'll see. I think that's a great movie to bring up. How to Train Your Dragon may have also been How to Train Your Movie audiences to embrace dragons.
Here's the thing that I think is and I don't wanna be too negative about this movie
No,
because I
no.
do want this movie to do well, and I am looking forward to seeing this movie.
Yes.
But Chris Pine
Mhm.
is not a
Let's
butts in your seats movie star,
not at all.
and nobody in this movie is a genuine draw, right? You've
Mhm.
got Michelle Rodriguez, which she may have her fans, right? But it's not they're not enough to make this movie move the needle, right?
Mhm.
You've got Regé-Jean Page, or I'm probably saying his name in the wrong order, but the gentleman from Bridgerton, whose heat kind of has cooled. I don't think he's a
Oh, yeah.
draw in a way.
No.
Um, the young girl from It, Lily something,
Okay.
she also the heat has cooled a little bit because
Yes.
that second It movie was, l not well liked, did good money, but was not well liked. Hugh Grant, who you would think he's a draw, but he's like a Woody Harrelson in the sense that I don't think anybody's mad when he's in a movie, but I don't know if anybody runs out to see him if he's in a movie.
Okay. Yeah, I think he's in a good spot where I think he's more beloved than he has been in a long time. I think he's fully I think now he's fully gotten over the prostitute scandal. I think
Mhm.
that is now fully behind him at this
But
point. We can
really,
say
Pat, what
that.
was he thinking?
What was well, I mean,
Did we ever
that should still be the first question anyone asks him when you see Hugh Grant is what were you
Yeah.
thinking?
I don't think he
Um,
ever really sufficiently answered it.
no, but you know what? We've all gotten over that finally. But
Yeah.
I agree. I'm looking at Chris Pine's box office history, and he's been someone who's been in a lot of franchises. You
Mhm.
know, he's been
Star
in the
Trek.
Wonder Woman movies, the Star Trek movies. You know, he's been in something like A Wrinkle in Time, which the property is, although I guess that would be a comp, you know, in
Oh, and
that
that
you
was a
throw him.
terrible bomb.
Well, it made 100 domestic total. Obviously, it had a big budget, but it did get to 100. So it's definitely not a terrible bomb. You know, I would say that that did fine, but he had a very much a supporting role, even in that. He
Mhm.
was not the lead. He was like a guy who pops up along the adventure. I think if you're looking at Chris Pine vehicles where he is the star, the movies you have to look at are 2016, The Finest Hours. He was the star of that, and that movie made a total of 27 million domestic. That's a giant bomb.
Yeah.
And then Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit, where he takes over the Jack Ryan part.
Mhm.
That movie made a total of $50 million at the box office, opens at 15. So, you know, those are the ones where it is like, all right, the only reason to come see this is Chris Pine. And that's
I
obviously not the case in Dungeon Dragons. This is an IP, but yeah,
I would
he's a guy that people like, but is in no way a draw at the box office.
but on a positive note, I
Mhm,
think at this
mhm.
moment, he's probably at the best level of celebrity he's been in a long time
Okay.
because he is the only person who came out of the "Don't worry, darling" Mishigash
Mm,
looking like an adult,
yes.
right? Florence Pugh, we love Florence Pugh, but she definitely was making a statement about that movie by not doing press and coming off. I don't wanna say bratty because I don't think she was bratty, but I think she definitely was, uh, negative about that experience in that movie in a way that Pine was not. He
Mm,
got spit on
he got spit
by
on.
a 5'1" pop star from England,
Yep, he
and he
did get
didn't
spit on, let's just say it, he got spit on.
and he did not pull a Will Smith.
Mhm,
He
mm,
smiled and he moved on because he
yep,
knew, guess what? This kid ain't gonna be good in movies. He ain't gonna be a movie star, and I'm closer to being a movie star than he is. He can stay
yes.
in his music world where he's background for people while they're doing TikTok dances. I'm on the biggest screens possible, and I light those screens up so he can just do whatever he does, and I'm cool. So,
Yeah.
he also has great fashion sense. He's got that salt and pepper hair now. I think a lot of ladies are into the Chris Pine experience, but
Mm.
will that translate to tickets? That is the big question.
I think Chris Pine is not the reason for the season. He's not the one that's gonna make you say, "I've gotta see Dungeons& and Dragons because Chris Pine is in it."
Yeah.
But he is I think you're right, he's definitely a star that people say, "Oh, I was already thinking about seeing this, and he's not gonna dissuade me." If
Yes.
anything, he may push me over the top to go see this in a way that, yes, if this was a movie starring, I don't know, some other lesser star, you know, Joel Edgerton. I don't know. If this was Dungeons& and
No,
Dragons
I
starring
think
Joel Edgerton,
that's a good,
then I
one.
think less people would wanna go see this movie. It probably wouldn't be as light on its feet, you know, and this is kind of the lane in which Chris Pine shines because you look at his box office, and one of the things that he's good at is comedy. You
Mhm.
know, like him being in something like Horrible Bosses or Horrible Bosses 2. Was he in both of them or just the second one?
He was just in the second one,
But,
and a
you know,
much better film than the first.
he's good in that. He's, of course, great in the Wet Hot American Summer prequel series.
Mhm.
We're not the Streamo Boys, but he was great in that series. He just may be someone who is better received in a lighter vehicle than serious stuff like Finest Hours, Jack Ryan. He doesn't have the gravitas to pull that off, but
Yeah.
he's light on his feet, and maybe that's how people are going to want to see him. But I agree, he's not going to bring people there, but he may be a reason that people get pushed over the top to see this, and he might be a reason why women whose boyfriends want to go see the Dungeons and Dragons movie, they might say, all right, sure, Chris Pine is in it. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
And quickly before we do our money, we're gonna say
Yep.
what we think this is gonna make
Yep.
and do our
Yep.
top 5s. Sophia Lillis is the actor I was trying to think of, so I just did not want to say a name and make it seem like I was being glib because I'm not.
You're not. You are not being glib.
And
Um,
this movie also stars Justice Smith, who is probably most well known for being cuckolded by Sydney Sweeney in the Amazon movie, The Voyeurs. So he is also in this film.
oh, good for him. Great film. If you have not seen it, do yourself a favor, stream it tonight.
Yeah, that's a campaign that everybody should mount.
Yes. All right, let's just do it. Let's get into our prediction. Well, one thing though we should note is there is a religious movie opening this weekend,
Mhm.
Clayton. So it is, I'm looking for it now, Angel
His Only Son?
Studios, His Only Son. And it's getting unconfirmed but estimated count 1,900 locations this weekend. And it's
Yeah.
from the same studios that partner with Fathom Events for the Chosen releases. So
Well, I think
1,900
it's a
theaters.
Fathom event, isn't it?
Yes, yes, it's a Fathom event, 1,900 theaters. His Only Son, which I'm assuming refers to Jesus, so they're going with the big IP there.
Mhm.
This is not the Burning Bush or one of the lesser characters. This is His Only Son. So it's a big one, but it's not Easter weekend, though maybe that's better because Easter weekend, the fans of this are going to be busy.
Oh,
I don't know. Do you think
they've got appointments. They've got a place to be.
right, right. So I don't know. Do you think this is going to be a big church bus weekend? Is this a movie that can make $4 million or
I
so
mean,
opening weekend?
I mean, the buses will be in full effect here. I don't know how much buzz is on this movie.
Uh-huh.
Box Office Pro is saying it's gonna make about 2.7 possibly. That is not enough to be in the top 5. So, unless this thing becomes a phenomenon,
Hmm.
it's gonna be hard pressed to beat out Scream to
Okay.
make it to the top 5. So, I would say, right now, marginal,
Marginal.
but these movies, I mean, they if this thing makes $2,000,000, it's still good box office for something that the regular populace has no clue about.
Right, right. And they really didn't have to spend anything to promote.
No,
There's
no,
no commercials during the NBA for His Only Son coming to theaters.
no, just pamphlets, uh, passed out to people before they get the collection plate going.
Yep. All right, so then let's do it. Let's jump into our top 5 predictions for this weekend and our prediction for the Dungeons and Dragons number. So, I mean, I'm gonna go first. I am gonna say, you know what? I'm still a little iffy on the dragon thing. I know I know you came up with How to Train Your Dragon, and dragons maybe are cooler than they were before, but you're a D&D guy. You're
Not
into this
D&D
kind
guy.
of stuff. You're a
Not a
big
D&D guy.
D&D guy, so you're inclined to go that way. I'm going to say 32 million. I think Dungeons and Dragons opens at 32 million. I want it to be a giant hit. I love a movie like this getting a big box office release, but I think 32 million. So that's first place. It's going to come in first place.
Okay.
Well, now that I
That's what I was
look
gonna
at it,
say. Yeah.
honestly, no, I take that back because I think that John Wick Chapter 4, which has gotten amazing reviews and has gotten so much you gotta see this in theaters buzz. I'm going John Wick Chapter 4 retaining its crown at number 1 because
What?
I think it'll
Wow.
make 35 million. It'll have a drop in the low 50s. So I'm
Okay.
going John Wick Chapter 4 makes 35, Dungeons and Dragons makes 32 right behind it. And then right behind that, number 3 is going to be Scream 6. And then right behind that is going to be number 4, Creed 3. And then number 5 is going to be Shazam Fury of the Gods. That's
Yeah,
my top
Shazam
5.
is too much like this Dungeons and it's got a dragon in it. I mean, we didn't even mention that Fury of the Gods has a dragon in it, which was the worst timing for Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, yeah, because that dragon specifically has gotten a lot of bad press because you've got Zachary Levi out there telling everyone this is a family film, and then people are fighting back saying, "No, well, you got a dragon in there that eats someone."
Yeah,
So
that dragon's out here killing people.
yeah, but I think Shazam's going to fall behind Scream and Creed and land at number 5. But yeah, I'm going John Wick number 1. I think it's going to have an incredible hold and make
Mhm.
around 35 million. So that's my top 5.
Here's what I'm gonna say about John Wick Chapter 4 not retaining. It loses the IMAXs and the PLFs. That's big. I think Dungeons& and Dragons is gonna eke out a victory on the power of PLFs and IMAXs,
Okay.
but it is gonna be very close, and I think it's gonna be at the low end of the tracking. I'm actually gonna go 31 here, okay?
Wow, lower than me, and you're a D&D guy.
I'm not a D&D guy. $31,000,000, number 1. Number 2, John Wick, and I think it's gonna be close. I think he could do 30, 29, something like that for John Wick.
Okay.
Number 3, I'm gonna go Creed 3. Then I'm gonna
Wow.
go Scream 6, and then
Wow.
I'm gonna go Shazam! Fury of the Gods, although it would be amazing if His Only Son could overperform to such an extent that His Only Son beats Shazam,
Right. Right.
a false god.
Right. Right. Right.
Shazam. Now, here's the thing about Dungeons& and Dragons before we wrap up. I don't think necessarily this movie has to have a giant opening weekend to be successful. Paramount is invested in this film. This feels like a movie that you're gonna have to have a few brave souls go out and see and love. They've been
Mhm.
previewing the crap out of it. That's why you're probably gonna see less box office for this because they've been having previews on Sundays, they've been having Wednesday previews, they've been having all these previews that are not going to necessarily add into the opening weekend.
Mm,
And
Well,
so
they could do
that
some funky math and say last Sunday's preview is part of the opening weekend.
they
We'll
could
see.
they definitely could, but I do think maybe this is gonna be a weaker opening than, uh, that most blockbusters have, but I do
Mhm.
think people are gonna like it and recommend it, and this movie is going to have legs. I think that this dragon will have legs.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll cover that in the episodes to come after we get the opening weekend numbers. I agree. I don't think this is a play where it's a make or break opening weekend because luckily the movie is getting good reviews and hopefully we'll have good word of mouth, but we will
Now
see.
it doesn't need to, but it should beat John Wick. If it doesn't beat John Wick, that is bad because you wanna be the number 1 movie.
Yeah, there is just something even if it's doesn't actually matter, there's something psychological that matters about
The
opening number
ads
1.
for the ads to get more people to come the next week and the next weekend, number 1 movie in America
Yeah.
still says a lot.
Yeah, definitely. You want to have that in your, print ad in the local newspapers for sure.
True,
So,
true.
let's see. So, Clayton, I think we've done it for this preview episode. So, anyone who wants to email us about your Dungeons and Dragons experience, and when I say that, I mean your experience seeing the new film Dungeons and Dragons, do not email us about playing
Yeah.
the actual game at home with your friends. We don't want
Yes.
that. Well, Clayton may want that email
No,
because he's a
stop it.
D&D
No,
guy,
no, no. I'm not a
but
D&D guy.
we share the email account, so I don't want to read about that. He's talked about his Dungeons and Dragons playing career long enough, so I don't want to read that. So do not email us at the BO Boys podcast at gmail.com with your real life Dungeons and Dragons playing experience, just your movie watching experience. Again, that's the BO Boys podcast at gmail.com. So follow us on Twitter at the BO Boys Pod. Wanna BO intern Chris doing a great job with the clips and the videos and going back and forth having fun movie discussions on Twitter at the BO Boys Pod. Watch, subscribe, like us on the YouTube channel. Find us on YouTube right down there. Smash that subscribe button, smash that like button. We are YouTubers right now. Give us 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast, but specifically on Apple Podcasts. That's the only one that really matters. Give us 5 stars, leave a review, helps new wanna BO boys, wanna BO girls, wanna BO people find the podcast. Clayton, I told you the other day, the other episode, how I was given a box labeled BO Boys by my mom. She found it
Yeah.
mixed in some really old stuff. I got the box here. I got the box. There it is. I opened it. There's cassettes in there. There's
Mm.
cassettes in there. So just wanted to throw that out. I haven't listened to anything yet, but in this box labeled the BO Boys that my mom found mixed in with some old stuff, there's cassettes. So, there you go. So
Are they labeled?
I haven't investigated further than that, but there
Wow,
are
you're a busy
cassettes.
man.
Yeah. Yeah. So I haven't had time, but I am reporting. I found a box of cassettes in a box marked the BO Boys with some very old stuff. So
Okay.
there you go. We'll see if that leads anywhere. Anything else, Clayton, or do you think we've done it?
We've done it, Pat.
Yeah.
I just don't think there's anything left to say
No,
except for I'm not a D&D guy, and
you are.
until
D&D
next
guy.
time,
We'll
smell
you
at
at
the
box
office.
office. Clayton's got to
Nailed
roll
it.
some dice now.
Oh,